Welcome to the bigger picture with me, Nick, and my co-host Sid. Welcome, Sid.
Hey, good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm also good. We got a really cool show.
We
We're
got a
gonna,
really cool show, and so much is happening. So much is happening.
yeah, and I got a ton of clips as usual. So I hope we can get through them all.
Yeah.
I want to start off with a prophecy you and me both know. This from this guy who's called Brandon Briggs, Pastor Brandon Briggs, and he predicted Trump's victory and
Yeah.
also his assassination, but he also predicted something else. So
Well,
let's.
I'm really waiting for that prophecy.
Here we go.
I'm loading up XRP Python.
And they were bringing forth a new patriotism upon the nation, and it was being birthed, and it just kept spreading like fire all throughout America, all throughout. And I saw Trump rising up, and then I saw an attempt on his life. This bullet flew by his ear, and it came so close to his head that it busted his eardrum. And I saw he fell to his knees during this time frame, and he started worshiping the Lord. He got radically born again during this time frame. I'm talking, people say he's saved now, but he becomes really on fire for Jesus, for what I saw coming. And then I saw people interceding when I saw him winning the presidency through great. The Lord showed me it would go clear into the summer. Great persecution would come on him through the judges and through the law and all these people trying to sue him and all this stuff. But there would be a stop to it, and there things would start to break free come toward the fall. And then I saw him winning the election through the Patriots coming out and voting, and then there will be a great economy crash. Yeah. I saw they had a great economy plan, a crash. Yeah. Worse than the Great Depression. And the Lord warned me about this. It would be a great dark time. But I saw paddles coming upon America's soil like a shocking of the soil. And I saw Donald Trump praying in the office of the Oval Office. And he was weeping before the Lord with his hands on his head like this, but he was weeping. And there was ministers and people. I don't know if they were senators or Congress people or whatever. I just saw them pacing and back and forth inside of the White House. And sorry, what is the White House? But it's the Oval Office. Yeah. And they were interceding all inside there, and I could feel the presence of the Lord so strong on this. And then I could see that darkness that was the heaviness upon America with the financial crisis of what I saw coming. It started to lift above the trees, and I saw the blue and the things coming back out, and the green times and the good times coming back again. But the Lord said it would be forth a time of a season of a shaking, and it would be a shaking to awaken. And in this, this would basically that He was not done with America. There would be a great revival come, and it's not all doom and gloom. That's what He said.
So that's sort of the full prophecy that he made.
Yeah. So I'm actually still shocked that he was so good
Yeah.
at his prophecy. Like, I've seen so many prophecies. No one is that perfect. His prophecies were perfect. And about recession, I think it's coming. It looks like it's gonna be here. And the
Yeah.
reason is going to be all the wars, because the wars are going to be big in Middle East. Because of that, the crisis will happen. But eventually we will lift off. This guy also predicted XRP to 10,000, by the way.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
Oh no,
That's why
no.
I said that before. Like, I don't know, you missed it or what?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just thought like like he said, like eventually things will clear up,
No,
and
this guy exactly said that there is like a coin or something or money which will be a three letter, which
yeah.
he didn't say XRP. He said it will start with X and end with P. It will reach $4 or $5 very fast right after the winning of Donald Trump,
Yeah.
and then in a long run XRP is going to be $10,000.
Wow. Then my brother might be right after all.
So that's why I said, like, I'm loading. Let
Okay.
me, yeah, let's continue, but let me find
Okay.
that clip as well.
Well, anyway, so that
Can you spell his name? What's his name?
uh,
Brendan?
wait, I'm gonna look at it again. I think it was Briggs. Sorry, I can look at it again. Brandon Biggs, Biggs, Brandon Biggs.
B. Sorry,
I
Biggs.
Yeah, double Gs. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So yeah, we don't know if there will be a recession or a collapse
Oh,
or a
there is
crash,
definitely gonna be here in 2 months, or
but
maybe more than.
you're sure of it. And I actually did a piece which was sort of a bridge to what I wrote. I recently did an article, and I'm going to try and write an article a week. I got a nice one coming out soon. And in this article, I actually also talk about a potential crash, right? I'm not saying it will happen because I actually write about 3 scenarios. Like, one is that it's already over. The second is like what's most realistic, that a new all-time high is incoming. And then the second one is that the Federal Reserve might actually cause a crash, either deliberately or because they are running behind the facts as usual, or for some other reasons. I actually list 5 reasons. And there's this guy who's called Josh Mandel, and he actually also made a prophecy, which is kind of fun. Let's see, I think it's over here. So the prophecy from Josh Mandel was, who's a legendary trader. He prophesied that when Bitcoin would reach 84K by March 14, which happened, by the way, and he made this prediction on November 6th, 2024. Then Bitcoin would hit 444,000 this run.
Oh,
Yep.
wow.
So that's actually another prophecy in this one, and he would come back to it. And
Almost 5x from here. Wow.
yeah, and imagine if Bitcoin does that, then yeah, maybe XRP could actually reach.
Okay, I sent you that article actually on trading. It's on Trading View.
Okay, cool.
Open
So
that because that's something.
did you send me? I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
see it.
Or did I send? I sent it to you
Oh,
on your
maybe
Bitcoin
my Second
Bitcoin
Life
Live DB.
account.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll
Okay.
send it to this one as well. This is no, this one. I sent it on this one.
I can't see it. It's not there. Why? Oh, there it is. Okay, I got it.
Yeah. So net is slow.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, let's open it. There we go. Oh yeah. Prophet Brandon Biggs. It should be Biggs, or at least that's what the one says. Maybe it's Briggs. I don't know. Predicts XRP price explosion to 10,000. Okay, I'll send this to Jan. He will be very.
But go down a bit on this. There's like a video of him saying that.
Okay, cool.
He said, "You've asked me and asked me and asked me about investments, and he said, I'm going to tell you something that will increase like Apple one day, that will be a major investment in the end times." And he said, XRP will go from where it's at right now to $10,000 one day.
Wow.
It will be worth over $10,000 per XRP. And when he said that to me, I didn't even know what XRP was. And I was like, what is XRP? So I had to Google it. And I found out it was a cryptocurrency.
Yeah. So good news for XRP holder. That's what I'm saying. Like, this guy is very good at his prediction. Even if it's just do like 1,000, that will be a big gain from here.
Oh yeah, definitely.
10,000, I don't know how it's gonna be on 10,000. It can be, but 1,000, that will be a life changing money.
Absolutely. But he did say one day, so he didn't say like this run, right? So
No,
that's
no, no. Yeah, that's one thing.
yeah,
So
yeah. So
it could be.
that's a big thing, right? A big
But
detail.
even if it one day 10,000, it means it will reach 1,000 very soon compared to 10,000. So in end times, it's going to be 10,000.
Yeah.
Even forget 1,000. Even $100 is amazing gain from here.
Yep. Oh, that definitely. So hold on to your XRP back, even if you have a little. but if you have a lot, you'll be very happy if it comes true.
Yeah.
The thing with the Fed, right? I mean, when you look at their balance sheet, every sort of 4 to 5 years it expands, and that's sort of the refinancing, global debt refinancing cycle that Raoul Pal and Michael Hall talk about. And at the moment, they're doing quantitative tightening instead of quantitative easing. So they're actually trying to bring back the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve back
Yeah.
to what it was before, even though the debt is expanding
Yeah,
exponentially.
yeah, but it was not that bad. Like I listened to the speech. It wasn't. He wasn't giving a bad sign. He wasn't saying that recession is coming or they're going to be a bad thing. That's why the price is doing well. And he didn't even increase the interest rate. He
Yeah.
didn't cut it, but he didn't do anything. So there is a chance
Yeah.
that he will do another cut in coming times.
Yeah, so the
What I
idea
mean.
is that by the start of April that they're gonna stop or pause quantitative tightening, and
Mhm.
then maybe from that moment onward they will start lowering interest rates, but they haven't mentioned anything about it, and and they're actually not talking about quantitative easing, which they should. So I don't know. Actually, M2 is picking up, so that's a good sign. um, and the price of Bitcoin is slowly sort of recovering, so that's another good sign. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe we will have a recession, like, or a crash, and then the Fed can pivot, right, and then
Yeah.
release all the. So anyway,
Or
those are
maybe
the.
recession can cause government of US to accept or to legalize XRP as like a legal tender or something
Mhm.
that could raise the price of XRP. Just saying
Yeah,
that
and,
recession
and
can
of
change.
course. And of course, we now have stablecoin regulation, which should give access to a lot of liquidity to the market, and
Yeah,
of course, banks can custody crypto, and the as soon as the SBR legislation comes through, right, they will spend 6 billion a year to buy Bitcoin and never sell on the federal level, and
yeah,
then Texas and some other states, Texas is going to buy 500 million and not sell any Bitcoin.
yeah.
And there's a lot of other states at the point of also creating a SBR. So those things are really bullish. But I don't know. You also know Cliff High, who's another person who makes predictions, not
Yeah.
prophecies, but predictions. And he sort of predicted, but I actually also think the same thing. But I do think that they will release the Epstein files.
Oh
And
yeah. Before we go to Epstein files, we need to talk about JFK. Anyway, continue.
well, anyway, no, yeah, it's very simple, right? I think they will be released, and Cliff High predicts based on his system and his models that will be. What was it in July? I think. Sorry, I'll check. I think it was July. I can't
Yeah.
find it. That it will be released end of July, I think he said, and that it will be catastrophic. Sort of the impact of sort of the revelations of the Epstein files, and
Yeah.
I think actually just to make I do want to make a point with it. One of the things that Trump is doing, of course, is a full scale attack on the old system and one branch of the deep state. I think he represents another branch.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense that he wants to release the Epstein files and the JFK files and the MLK files and the 9/11 files because he wants to, because this branch of the deep state is probably not involved with that kind of stuff because they're the underdog.
I am not sure about Epstein files because he had multiple meetings and he has been like photographed multiple times with Epstein
Yeah,
in his party. So I don't know how much he was involved because he was involved. He
yeah, but
was the
I
playboy billionaire, so there was something going on with him. So I'm not sure he gonna release Epstein file fully because, but with JFK he had no involvement, so he released it easily.
yeah it's been a while back that I dove into that, but I think there's that he knew Epstein, but he wasn't really involved with it, and some research sort of pointed out that they knew each other, but that they were not intimately connected, or at least.
Well, from the videos and the photos which I have seen, he was very friendly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I think that was before Epstein became what he uh, would
No,
eventually become. But
no, because Epstein was doing that since like for 20, 30 years. It wasn't
well,
like he got caught recently, but he has been doing that for a very long time.
okay. Now, anyway, we'll see. And but maybe you're right. Maybe they won't be fully released, but at least some of it, I think, will be released.
Yeah, yeah,
And
but with JFK files, first of
yeah,
all, the mainstream narrative, which was like a lone gunman, that is out of the smithereens. So now nobody can say that there are conspiracies. Yes, there were other things. And what I read very few parts of JFK files, but I think in one document it was said that CIA decided that in the first week that it wasn't a lone gunman, and they pushed that narrative on us for decades.
yeah, yeah. I think there will be many explosive stuff in those files, and I think he will use it to blow up the old guard and the old system. And
It's already out. Like main thing, it was CIA, Israel,
yeah,
and mafia. These three are the main name, and they are blaming Russia. But I don't think Russia had anything to do with that, because if Russia was involved, that would be a golden ticket in their hand to attack Russia, because
yeah,
they were in the part of like they were a part of Cold War.
yeah,
So I don't think they would have hide that, and I don't think Russia even had the power over CIA because they were
yeah.
fighting each other. So Russia part, I don't buy it, but everything else make more sense.
Yeah, and I think it will also help Trump to distance himself and his administration from Israel, because it might actually create, you know,
I think that's a precursor to Epstein file, because
yeah,
Epstein files are the real bombshell for Israel, because that's like a Mossad operation. So that will be crazy. So I think he don't. That's why I think he released JFK file first, so people can
yeah,
start to digest, because Epstein files gonna change everything.
yeah. But yeah, like Cliff High, I do think they will be released, and maybe like you say, they won't be fully released, or there might be an angle that we can't see yet. But
Yeah,
if let's say they do get released, and regardless of what the Federal Reserve is going to do,
yeah,
yeah, a bombshell like that can actually do sort of crash
yeah,
trust and the economy, right? So
yeah.
and maybe, and one of the things that I've been playing with, I didn't put it into the into my article because it would be too sort of controversial. But what if the federal, because Jerome Powell, he was appointed by Trump, of course, but then
Mhm.
run in his sort of run up to the presidency when he was still not the president. Um, he sort of said, like, I'm gonna fire Jerome Powell because I don't like him anymore, or at least, or what he's doing. And Jerome Powell, of course, became sort of Biden and Janet Yellen's stooge, and together they started issuing like short-term debt, and at the moment that's what's causing gigantic debt problems for America, and maybe even cause a recession.
Mhm.
So what if Jerome Powell and Trump are sort of in this power struggle right now, where Trump basically wants him to increase the balance sheet, and Jerome is using his leverage, his power over Trump to say, like, I'm not going to do that unless you give us sort of like security guarantees that you're not going to release these files, right?
Yeah,
Otherwise, I'm not going to increase the balance sheet. Um, and cause a crash, which would then be blamed on Trump, because Trump is, everybody's saying that Trump is causing a recession all over the world. And then the Federal Reserve can ride to the rescue afterwards, after the crash, and everything. And then, so I think there might be actually
I
sort of
also
a
read
power play there.
somewhere that Trump was not happy with Jerome Powell's speech,
Yeah, he can't
and
fire Trump.
yeah, he wasn't
Jerome
happy.
Powell.
He
I agree.
criticized that recently. So yeah,
Yeah,
there is some friction.
yeah,
So let's see. But if Jerome Powell is stupid enough to fight Trump, he's really stupid. He should not be the whatever the post he have. I
yeah.
don't even know the title of his post.
But
Anyway,
I totally agree
money man,
with
America's money man.
with the Inspirer, that he can't fire Jerome, of course, which is the whole point, right, of my
Yeah.
argument. Anyway, but we are actually here for something much more fun and much less well, not less controversial, it's actually more controversial. So, there was this recent discovery, and I was actually
We
talking
should change the name of our podcast from Bigger Picture to Bigger Controversy.
the biggest controversy. Okay, so for the people who don't know yet, this will be, kind of mind-blowing. So strap in, and I'm going to play this video for you guys. Here we go.
Announced in relation to the pyramids at the Giza Plateau and the plateau itself is so incredible, so awe-inspiring and narrative shattering that I have been sitting here for the last hour trying to wrap my head around the implications of what we were just told. So this is pretty much breaking news because the new findings were announced on the 16th of March at a press conference held by the team who were studying the Great Pyramid of Giza with a non-invasive technology. Yonde and Corrado Malanga, called synthetic aperture radar Doppler tomography. So this was used to explore the internal structure of the Great Pyramid of Giza. And this method leverages the analysis of micro movements typically generated by background seismic activity to achieve a high resolution full 3D tomographic imagery of the pyramid's interior and subsurface components. The recent findings from deploying this technology are nothing short of mind-blowing, because what's been discovered is that there are huge structures coming down from the base of the pyramid deep into the bedrock, in fact over 600 meters deep, which then connects to structures that extend up to 2 kilometers below the surface of the ground. 2 kilometers. Massive internal structures connected to the base of the pyramid and extending deep, deep down. This is what we know so far. Utilizing high-resolution radar images from Capella Space and Umbra, which are 2 private companies that specialize in satellite-based synthetic aperture radar imaging. This has allowed researchers to create a 3D model of the internal structure of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Now, this model has revealed a previously unknown chamber with 5 horizontal levels and a sloping roof, which in of itself is an architectural design unlike any previously documented in the Giza Pyramid. But the most shocking discovery lies beneath the surface, below ground level. Radar tomography has identified vertical cylindrical structures extending for hundreds of meters beneath the pyramid. There are 8 of these cylindrical wells arranged in 2 parallel rows, descending to an astonishing depth of 648 meters. Even more intriguing, at the base of these structures are 2 massive cubic formations measuring approximately 80 meters in diameter. The tomographic data suggests that these are vertical wells with intricate spiral pathways. Now, this design not only implies a functional purpose, but also a level of sophisticated engineering that completely blows the dynastic Egyptian model out of the water. I mean, the pyramid itself was already a massive red flag in the ancient Egyptian historical narrative. But now, with this discovery, I think it's become impossible to say that the Egyptian civilizations that we understand, that we've been taught about, were responsible for building these structures. And it doesn't even end there. The radar analysis extends beneath the entire Giza Plateau, revealing interconnected structures beneath not only the Great Pyramid of Giza, but also those of Khufu and Menkaure. The subsurface network reaches down to a staggering depth of approximately 2 kilometers. 2 kilometers. This is not possible, given the standard historical and archaeological narrative given to us about ancient Egypt. Now, I'm hearing that there is more to come. There is a 4-hour presentation that's going to be released by the research team. This is what I'm hearing. That's going to go into every detail of their findings. This has essentially been a strategic release of incredible...
Anyway, so this is sort of the, if you want to get sort of the full...
This is like the perfect video to explain the whole thing.
Yeah, so here is sort of the official press release. It's like an hour-long video where you can sort of dive into sort of more... more of these details from the researchers. We also got like an image of what could potentially be the case with the pyramid. I got that one here. So that would look like this if if it is true, right? I totally agree.
I think it's true. Otherwise, they are not like conspiracy theorists. They are scientists. They are not making a claim without a proof. So this is with evidence. Now the point is why they built it like that. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, but I agree with Jimmy Corsetti. I think you were actually the one who sent me this.
Yeah, I
You
sent
know,
it.
what is absolutely important is that first of all, order of business, that a third party should conduct immediate secondary testing and compare scan results, and the neutral third party should then analyze and interpret both of these scans. Right?
Yes.
I think that is really critical here because
But this is going to happen. That's how science works. It takes time. So now they have made a claim. They have to do peer review. And then the third one is not, but they have to do peer review with their research.
yeah. No, yeah. So yeah, and then Jay Anderson is a really interesting figure in sort of this area, right, of
Yeah.
archaeology. He's very interested in psychoacoustics and a lot of other things. He actually is going to do a documentary on Malta, and he did a lot of additional sort of explanation, surrounding these findings of the pyramid, and it is especially the pyramid of Khafre. I think
Khafre,
he said it wrong in his first video that he was talking about the pyramid of Giza.
It's the second pyramid, I guess.
Yeah, true.
Second highest, second tallest.
Yeah. So, and what's also interesting, and that's actually research from 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and Brian Broomla, I think he's a Dutch guy, looking at his last name. He talks about the China observation of plasma bubbles over the Great Pyramids. We talked about plasma many times before. Ashton Forbes has done a lot of research in plasma.
Yeah.
And plasma is basically, what he's talking about, could these bubbles that China detected over the pyramids a few years ago be part or connected to this sort of idea of these pyramids being power stations or, batteries of some kinds?
Yeah.
Because plasma, as researchers know who are into plasma, and there's this great book which is called The New Science of Heaven from Robert Temple, which I got lying right here, and I almost finished it, is like a gigantic electrical field. And it has different properties and different constellations or ways it can sort of construct itself or form itself. From plasmoids to plasma fields, and you got sort of the idea of the electric universe, which I won't go into because it would take us too far afield. But that might be actually connected to these pyramids. And of course, these pyramids are not only in Egypt, but before we go there,
before we go there, sorry, continue. Then I have a few things to say.
Well, let's. I'm gonna play some videos because.
Okay, so before you play something, I want to say this. Anybody who understands tombs, how the shrines and tombs are built, most people in West, they have no idea because they don't have culture. People from East know how tombs are. There should be an entrance. There should be a structure. That's how every tomb on earth is built. Why will they build a tomb of a pharaoh with no entrance and no
And no
ritual?
hieroglyphics, right?
Yeah, like the idea is so stupid that it cannot be a tomb, because for a tomb there should be an entrance and then there should be a holy area where they go worship and do whatever. There is no entrance, there's nothing. They are like they are minor tunnels, even a man cannot go through in that. That's crazy. That's not a tomb. I don't even know that how did they come up with this idea, especially from the people from the Egypt where there was a culture of tomb.
But you don't have to take our word for it, because Ross Coulthart has done a series where he actually goes to Egypt and to all these different places, and we're gonna play some parts of his yeah, let's call it a documentary.
Physical movement of the temple being physically levitated off the floor, because we can see it being lifted off the floor. It's not touching the floor, which is very, very clearly kind of delineated. And here we've got some interaction between the spectrum of light, sound. Hator obviously represents frequency and resonance, and then waves of energy, which you see in the celestial zodiac in Aquarius.
That one really gets me.
Yeah.
I mean, if ever you were going to represent electricity contained within a vessel, that's it.
That's it.
Actually, you can see a light, and you can see a cable going into it, can't you?
It looks like technology, is all I'd say.
It does, doesn't it? I mean, it's hard to escape the idea that that's something electrical, but maybe we're, what's it called? Pareidolia. Maybe we're putting our human impressions onto objects, onto symbology.
Absolutely.
Or maybe it's technology.
Maybe nothing.
So this is in the Temple of Din.
So that was the Temple of Dendera, but he went all over Egypt. So you want to play another one?
Yeah.
Okay. This is, of course, also in Egypt from the same documentary. And all this stuff is, of course, linked underneath our YouTube channel as usual.
So when scientists did a laser scan of this amazing granite dolomite statue, one of the hardest stones in the world, they were absolutely astonished because the head is absolutely symmetrical. If you put a line down the middle of the head and go to the eyes, go to the ears, everything perfectly matches. I think we'd be hard-pressed to replicate that today. And yet, from what the tour is telling me, this statue is probably over 10,000 years old, minimum. It's suggestive of an unknown, possibly human civilization that existed here, that explains the technology. I mean, who had the tools to be able to carve dolomite, granite?
Okay, and I see some unbelievers in the chat.
Yeah.
Which I can totally understand, right? And I'm not saying, this is the case, right? We're presenting just different perspectives on what
No,
might
but
be
a
the case.
few things I want to answer that. They would be laughing from their graves because we still, 10,000 years later, can't figure out why they built it. Not because we are trying to make pareidolia or scene out of it. Second thing, Hedi.btc asked, how do we harness this? We don't even understand the technology right now. But if you're talking about, like, I use wireless charger everywhere. I just put my phone onto it, it starts charging. It doesn't have to be touching it as well. It has to be closer and it starts charging. So there are ways, we just don't know. I know that I can charge my phone wireless, like without wire.
Okay, but remember when last time we talked about Barabar, and Barabar is in India, and that basically is the same style of building that some of these places in Egypt and also Mesoamerica, like the Cyclopean style of building, which we will also talk about. But Barabar, those were like 7 or 8 chambers. They date from the 3rd century before Christ.
Yeah.
And nobody really knows what their function is. They're, without hieroglyphs. They're, completely symmetrical. They're probably used for, psychoacoustic stuff. We don't really know, but, that's what it kind of looks like. And they're, built to perfection, right? And so in this documentary, and I'm going to play a little clip, the documentary makers, who are agnostic, they don't make any claims in the documentary. They just present the measurements with laser, and then present the measurements of those the reports. Basically, they created like 3 reports, and they presented the reports and the images to stonemasons and other experts, engineers, the top of their field, and they had to grade the construction of these 3rd century chambers, which were cut from granite.
Yeah.
And these are the results. So here we go.
Eric Bernard, companion member and architect with over 40 years' experience. Olivier Levine, companion for 30 years, who has studied ancient carving in Egypt for 25 years. Frank Petita, former stonemason. Mathieu Enoff, stonemason turned fitter who currently manages masonry and stonemasonry projects for heritage restoration companies. Louis-Joseph Lamboro, son, grandson and great-grandson of stonemasons, who has worked for over 30 years restoring historic monuments in Paris and now runs his own stonehouse manufacturing business. Joël Caravet, artisan granite stonemason for over 40 years, and Christophe Kini, artisan granite stonemason for 28 years. We showed them the chambers and the AGP report and asked them to rate the work on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the easiest and 10 being the most difficult.
We're at 9.5 for difficulty of work.
10.
10, maybe even 12.
10, even 20.
Well, it's simple, I'll put 12.
Well, for the sake of argument, I'd say 12. At least to put the object in the context of our reality.
You've got to have hit a rock in granite to know what it's like, the complexity of it, and done some geometry. That's why people who haven't done this thing can't understand it.
Before AGP, we could think, yeah, we're professional men, not afraid of anything. But the specific demand is outstanding. You have to understand that. So we're capable of making a chamber like that, with more or less the same finished polish. It's pleasing to the eye, but we wouldn't match the required specifications. That is very clear. In other words, curves of 120 meters in diameter and 13 meters long, we'll do them, but then if you put AGP scans on our work, we run the risk of looking like...
There are many. So, in other words, some other people in this documentary compared it to like spacecraft, space technology, sort of what they use in space industry, like that level of sophistication. And they sort of calculated if you would build something like this right now, it would cost you in the billions of dollars to create one such chamber. And there are like 7 or 8 of them. And also these chambers, which are cut from granite with thousands of a millimeter error, they also form a grid together. Like the entrance of one chamber exactly matches the entrance of another chamber. So that's pretty incredible for people in the 3rd century before Christ that they could cut these things with chisels. And
okay, you can't do that with chisels. I think the water theory that they use water cannons to cut them, that makes a little bit sense, but you can't do it with chisels.
No, well, and then let's play one more clip, and then and then we can sort of see what we can talk about next. But
almost incomprehensibly large grump of granite. It must be hundreds and hundreds of tons.
Yep, it's a mystery that something so large can be shaped, sculpted, and effectively excavated from this rose granite, which is harder than steel. And the only evidence that we're being given is that hard rocks were used over hundreds of years.
I think that's hilarious.
It is funny.
Using hard rocks to chip away something as accurate as this unfinished obelisk.
Yeah, I think this is beyond 2001, A Space Odyssey. I think advanced tooling was used. My speculation would be sonic tools that could effectively resonate the granite at such a high frequency that it would probably been disintegrated into dust, and it being lead, which could explain why you see these kind of ice cream scoop marks, which are so smooth and perfect.
I guess the other question is, how on earth would they have lifted something as large as this out of this quarry and transported it up the river to wherever they wanted to move it?
Exactly, and when you think about it, the depictions in Edfu Temple on the Nile, in Komombo, and indeed even in Dendara Temple, the Temple of Hathor, where we see this these beings, these kings, effectively using some kind of energy lines that lift or raise the temple. In one image, you can see the temple is affixed to the ground. In the next image, you see a a field around the temple, and it's depicted as being lifted from.
Yeah, I don't want to play it too long because it's from News Nation. But yeah, so these are interesting findings, and I understand skeptics are still going to be skeptical. Right? That's okay. You don't have to agree with each other, right? That's only a good thing. I actually do have more clips, like many more clips. I actually want to play one more because that's maybe less controversial, because many people might not sort of trust Coulthart because he is kind of biased, of course. So this is from the BBC, and it's basically talking about the same stuff.
The mystery of Stonehenge just got deeper. New research reveals that 5,000 years ago, the altar stone largely buried at the centre of the ring was brought from northern Scotland and not from Wales as previously thought. Somehow, Neolithic people with only primitive tools moved a 6-ton rock the length of Britain. The scientists were stunned.
This sort of transportation distance is amazing. It looks like a sandstone rock that's micaceous, so it's a little bit glittery. You would think, oh wow, there's rocks like this in pretty close to here. I would have expected it to come from there, but no, absolutely gobsmacked. It's definitely Scottish. So,
and well worth bringing that distance, quite clearly.
for these people, that rock had a lot of significance.
The new finding means Stonehenge was built with rocks brought from across the island of Britain. The largest, the 25-ton sarsen stones, were brought from the Marlborough Downs in Wiltshire, just 20 miles away. The smaller blue stones were transported from the Preseli Hills in West Wales, a distance of 140 miles. And now research shows the altar stone came the furthest, 500 miles from the Orcadian Basin that lies north of Inverness. How exactly the stone was transported so far is unclear. If it came over land, people would have had to bring it through dense forests and over mountains. Alternatively, it could have been brought by sea on a giant raft. But this is a huge stone.
Yeah, like a huge stone.
Stonehenge just got...
It's kind of insane, like how big the stone is.
Yeah, but I think they use portals. I think that's the easiest way to transport stuff. Even for Egyptians, those rocks, just use portal.
Yeah. Also, so we now sort of we still you can still probably argue that maybe they had very sophisticated means that we don't know about of moving these rocks and these stones, and it's also kind of difficult to sort of conceptualize how heavy these things actually are,
also,
right?
Also, people need to understand there were no roads
Yeah.
and trucks. So the moving that thing on the wooden cart, that will be insane.
Yeah, so I'm gonna play another one. I hope I got the right one, but because I got two clips from this one, but otherwise we'll just play them right after each other. But this is Razor Jorjani, and he is also very knowledgeable in this field.
Okay. Now that is in the quarry where these stones came from.
Yeah.
That quarry is 50 miles away from the site.
Yes.
50 miles. How did they take 1,300 ton stone? 19 cranes of the highest industrial grade that we have today can't lift and move one of these. They've done the engineering calculations. How did they move that thing 50 miles? You know why that's buried there? Because they wanted to tell us that that's where the quarry was, and that they've somehow managed to move that stone 50 miles to build the platform at Baalbek. All right, here's my point. That gives you a sense of the level of engineering capability of this civilization. It's beyond ours.
Way beyond ours.
Way beyond ours.
The problem is there's no saw blades or toasters or anything in the desert out there.
And there's no large-scale evidence for this civilization other than these megalithic structures.
Nothing.
In various places in the world. You know where I think there's going to be a jackpot of a plethora of evidence for it? Under the ice of Antarctica. And here's where I'm going with this. If you're a civilization that advanced, why do you isolate yourself to Antarctica? Why would you do that?
Right.
You tell me. Any thoughts why you would do something like that?
Why you would isolate yourself?
Yeah, you have this level of technology, right? And after the cataclysm, you go around the world and you build these various megalithic sites, which leave a record of the level of your technical achievement.
How do we know it was after the cataclysm?
Well, we know Giza was after the cataclysm.
We do?
Yeah, I mean, the ground plan dates to 10,500 BC. And if you line that up with Plato, and you line it up with the end of the Ice Age and the massive flooding, it's just after that cataclysm that site was built. Also...
You're talking about the Great Pyramid?
Yes. The three pyramids and the Sphinx, and there are other structures like the Osirian at Abydos in Egypt that are all in the same style. They're all in this anonymous, high-precision megalithic style.
What did you say was the evidence that it happened 10,000 BC?
Well, the Giza ground plan, like we were just talking about.
The Giza ground plan.
Yeah, the alignment of the three stars of Orion's belt with the three pyramids, and the alignment of the Sphinx with its counterpart on the horizon, that gives us an astrological date of the age of Leo.
Yes.
And that happens to be right after the Great Flood took place, right? Through the melting of the ice sheets.
Between 12,900 years ago and
round about
there's like
then.
1,000-year period there in the Younger Dryas.
Exactly. And this is, again, also when Plato tells us Atlantis was destroyed. But if you go to South America, the Mayans also say that the people who built these megalithic structures, the people of Quetzalcoatl, that the people of the feathered serpent, they came there after the Great Flood. That's what they say. And they started making these constructions there and teaching the locals agriculture and trying to restart civilization in various ways. So it also aligns with what the myths tell us. Now, my question is this. If you have that level of technology, why would you isolate yourself to Antarctica?
That's where his theory becomes pretty wild. So I'll spare you. I'll spare you his theory because
no. So I think he's smart, but he's a smart guy and he have some knowledge. But his whole argument is like, you probably will find something in Antarctica which we have not found anything in Antarctica. And then he's asking a question: why will you isolate? First of all, you need to prove that there is something in Antarctica, and there was a civilization which was isolating itself. It wasn't there. So why you are asking a stupid question?
Well, you have to watch the whole thing to sort of get to understand what he's getting at. But I wanted to play that video because he was talking about the stones and the quarries and the
everything else he said is amazing. And then we get about the date of Giza. Yes, we get 10,000
with the
BC,
Sphinx,
whatever the date was. But then we can also get another date which was like 25,000 years ago. That was also an age of Leo. And I think if there is an advanced civilization, they could have built it before the catastrophe, the Great Flood, and then it was destroyed in Great Flood. So there was, when they were actually building, it was 25,000 years ago. They had a great civilization, and then catastrophe happened and everything got destroyed. That's where that civilization went.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Right. I totally agree that where Racer Jorjani sort of goes really wild, like with his theory. I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't be possible. It might be possible. But like you say, like at first we need some evidence that there is actually something in Antarctica, and that's a different show. Yeah. So that's not what we're going to talk about right now.
We find totally different things in Antarctica, and I love that topic. But
but we also have, like you said, we're Mesoamerica, and then Graham Hancock did multiple shows, Ancient Apocalypse, which I can highly recommend you go watch, because he's basically like one of the sort of founders of this field, like people who look beyond, and Anthony West and a lot of other people who sort of did amazing research, precursors in this field.
But nobody talks about the pyramids in China for some reason.
Yeah, so there's those in China, but you also have them in Bosnia. And I want to play this one for people who know our channel. They might have seen it before, but it's from Marijn Puls. He's a Dutch documentary maker, and it's called Primordial Code, and it's awesome.
After 40 years, I have concluded almost everything they teach us about the ancient history is wrong. The origin of man, civilizations, and pyramids. Back in 2005, this was covered by soil. And then we started removing the soil, discovering these blocks. This was the first one that we discovered. It is clearly rectangular in shape. It's 4.5 meters long, 1.5 wide, and 45 centimeters thick. Its mass is 7 tons. Mother Nature does not make blocks with 6 sides that are perfectly flat and 6 breaks at 90 degrees. It's made by intelligent hand. Next to this block is another one, and another one. But this is only the first layer of concrete blocks. Below is the second layer, about 40 centimeters, third layer, about 45 centimeters, and the fourth layer, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a structure. Mother Nature does not construct, but intelligent hands.
Net zoals dropshipping in 2017 de e-commerce game veranderde, staat er weer iets groots te gebeuren. En jij...
We took samples from these blocks, sent them to 7 institutes for materials. Politecnico di Torino in Turin, Italy. Then Geopolymer Institute from France, Czech, Slovakia, Bosnia. They all told us this was an artificial concrete. Our concretes, when it comes to the hardness, are in the range from 10 to 60 megapascals. This one here, after we analyzed 50 samples, are in the range from 74 to 155 megapascals. Wow. The best quality ever. Between concrete blocks, we have discovered fossilized leaves. It got there during the construction phase. The age, 29,200 years plus minus 400 years. Wow. And this is radiocarbon date. Calibrated date is usually about 14% more, so the real age of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun is 33,600 years, which makes it the oldest pyramid ever.
Gonna play a little bit more.
The next element, orientation to the cosmic north. The Great Pyramid of Egypt has an error of 0 degrees and 3 minutes. That's almost perfect. Khafre, the second largest, 0 degrees, 3 minutes. Mycerinos, 0 degrees, 18 minutes. Bent Pyramid in Dakhshur, 0 degrees, 12 minutes. A Red Pyramid, 0 degrees, 5 minutes. These are all perfect orientation. But the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, 0 degrees, 0 minutes, and 12 seconds. The most precise on the planet. Sacred geometry elements. When we connect the top of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun with the top of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Moon, the distance 2,170 meters. From the Moon to the third major pyramid, Dragon Pyramid, 2,170. From Dragon back to the Sun, 2,170 meters. Top of the Love Pyramid, Temple of Mother Earth, tunnels in the river. Triangle within a triangle, again, element of sacred geometry. But not only that, let's use the same center of these triangles. And we are getting the flower of life. This is the cosmic imprint of the life in the universe. The layout of these structures was very precise. It is element of sacred geometry. Why is sacred geometry important? You have elements of sacred geometry, you have movement of the energy.
Okay, I'm gonna cut it off there. I played pretty long. I recommend watching all these things, especially the Primordial Code, because it goes much further than these clips that I've shown you. But I think what's interesting is, of course, the time that the pyramid was created, which is basically carbon dated and sent to many different universities all over the world. At the concrete, right, which is better than much way better than the concrete that we create right now. And the fact that it's a structure, right? I mean, there's no doubt about the fact that it's a structure, because the things that he pointed out in the video is the way archaeologists all over the world look at structures, right? 3 stones form a structure, right? That's sort of the ground rule of archaeology. But this goes way further than 3 rocks, right? This is a gigantic pyramid. Actually, it's pyramids, multiple pyramids, like 6 or 8 pyramids in Bosnia that were overgrown and then filled. And then, of course, you got, for example, this structure in Indonesia, which is also being unearthed. This was one of the latest updates. So this was in West Java. It's called Gunung Padang, or the Mountain of Enlightenment. And what is interesting about this structure is that it has different layers, and that the oldest layer has been dated, the chambers have been dated to 27,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Radiocarbon dated. So it has different levels and structures. I can also recommend you reading through this. Actually, this was in the first episode of Graham Hancock's documentary series. And then he was sort of ridiculed, because at that moment, this unearthing or this archaeological research that was being done in Indonesia was still just getting started, and people were saying like, he's exaggerating, and it's nonsense, and there's nothing there to see. And then a couple of years later, he was vindicated, and it turned out that he was right. And but this sort of the year 27,000 years ago sort of matches. Well, not exactly, of course, because the Pyramid of the Sun was 33,000 years ago. But it sort of gets into that range, which is before the Younger Dryads, before the Cataclysm happened, right? And then, of course, you also got today you got Göbekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe. Those are totally uncontroversial. Well, actually, they are controversial, but there are established facts that these are dated. I think Karahan Tepe is actually older than Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, but Göbekli Tepe is dated to 12,000 years ago. That's around sort of the Cataclysm.
Before Cataclysm.
Yeah, I think it was just before, right?
Yeah, just before, yeah.
Yeah, because it was sort of also underneath a mount. But anyway, it's a sort of very highly advanced building. I don't have it here right now, but you can sort of just Google it. And then Karahan Tepe is another one close by, but there's multiple sites that are about to unearth, which showcases a highly advanced civilization with also megalithic stones of multiple tons, if not hundreds of tons, which is not created by hunter-gatherers, of course, for fun. So that's that. I actually have more. Shall we just jump into the next one?
Yeah. Also, for some reason, Restream destroys the video.
Yeah.
After like 30-40 minutes, like it doesn't play it well. Well, we can't do anything about that, but let's go.
No, yeah. I mean, at least people can listen, and just go to our YouTube channel. Not today, because I have to put it all there, tomorrow. So let's go. If you go there Tuesday, Tuesday, all the links should be there. I'll do that tomorrow. But then you can just do your own research and draw your own conclusions from all of this. And each of these documentaries is worth watching, in my opinion.
Yep.
Well, this is Jay Anderson again, who was on Alex Jones after this revelation from the pyramid, and he had some interesting things to say
in regards to prehistoric past, and it's called psychoacoustic architecture.
And this is something specifically in relation to prehistoric megaliths and sacred sites, is the study of purposeful engineering techniques deployed in these structures that manipulate sound waves, producing acoustic effects that are only now being rediscovered by modern science to have profound impact on human consciousness, elevating our coherence levels, increasing brain hemisphere synchronization, neural plasticity, and even potentially access to higher density fields of quantum information. So this is the next generation of quantum biological science, and yet evidence of its usage is represented in the most ancient stone structures littering our world. We're talking precision geometry aligning massive multi-ton stones into celestial alignments with absolute accuracy, and not just any stones, mind you, very specific stones such as limestone and rose quartz granite, what are known as geoenergetic materials that amplify sound waves and can even produce electrical charge through mechanical stress. And mechanical stress can be applied through acoustical vibration, right? So generating energy, generating electrical behaviors through specific acoustic resonances. And this is not just one site or two sites. This psychoacoustic engineering is found across the world, from my country in England with Stonehenge, to Ireland with Newgrange, to Egypt with many sites, including the pyramids, Malta with the Hypogeum of Halseflieni, one of the best examples, actually, of prehistoric psychoacoustic architecture. And they're in Peru and Mexico and all over the world.
And anybody that goes to these places has mystical experiences, even though they don't believe in God. And that's because it's energetically built on ley lines where they now know that there's energy coming up out of the core.
Yes.
And so basically, in layman's terms, these things are like a drug temple, but it's not drugs. It's chemically manipulating the neurons in the brain. And like, I'd never even researched this or knew about that part. When I walked up to Stonehenge the first time, there a few times, it was back when you could still go up to it. The first time, you're not going to let you get near it. I walk past this line and feel like, ring, and I see this older park ranger, and he goes, yeah, about a third of the people have it. And I sit there and watch people all day walk across that line. And he goes, we think it has something to do with like the rods and cones in people's brains that we all have, same way birds can, follow electromagnetics from where they're born, in North America, down to Central or South America, same thing with hummingbirds or everything. And everybody has these, but he was saying he watches people all day walk across that line, and about 30% of people literally feel it, especially the first time you go across it. I remember just being energized. I'm just like, okay, it was like I walked over a field, and I think that's what you're getting at.
Oh, completely. This is, in my opinion, this is a lost technology of a lost era that we label as the Stone Age. And well, it was the Stone Age, but not how we think about it. It was the age of holistic sciences, of natural energy manipulation, alchemy and shamanism, entangled with mathematics and engineering. And the implications are staggering. I mean, this is something I'll be highlighting in a documentary that I'm working on. I was over at the islands of Malta recently, which is actually an island which has the largest concentration of prehistoric megaliths and temples in the world, alongside indigenous stories of a race of giants that built them and the discovery of elongated skulls inside the acoustic temples. Very
well, I'll cut it off there because I don't want to alienate people too much. But the point is sort of the energy fields, and what are these things built for, and what do they do? And one of the things that he also said, psychoacoustic or sacred geometry and sort of energy fields, all that kind of stuff, which sounds kind of like a woo-woo, which probably is woo-woo, but probably real woo-woo, because the Princeton University is exploring pyramid shapes and how they manipulate light and what that does with sort of the human psyche. So I recommend also reading through this article, which is very interesting, which is by Princeton University. And that also has to do with sort of these energy fields and yeah, basically, the research that's coming out right now and sort of the sophisticated technology that we have to measure all these new things that were invisible or unexplainable or unthinkable like a few years ago even, and that can now be detected and studied at university levels, and of course also this openness, right? The things that we talked about, I think 2 shows ago, like the different reasons why all this stuff is now coming out, and I enumerated 8 of them, and that was in connection to Project Bluebeam, right? That there might be like a new age religion or an archaeological shock wave that sort of destroys our current understanding of who we are and where we came from, and that might solidify a new system and a new edifice to a new system, perhaps a new control system. But that is, stuff like that is happening right now, and it's very interesting. And maybe it's also good to sort of run through these points, right? So I think one of the reasons why it is happening right now is that there's just too much highly advanced technology out there to control. And also, also the social media part, it is very difficult to control information when information flows so quickly across the medium, like Twitter or even Facebook, or you got so many different social media, but also access to LiDAR or satellites. Like the scans that they did with the pyramid of Khafre was basically from satellites up in space that everybody, now not everybody, but some people can have access to, and so they could sort of go past strictures that are surrounding these temples and pyramids, so that they could actually make a scan and nobody could stop them and analyze it. But also the world is becoming unstable, geopolitically unstable, economically, financially unstable. We're sort of reaching the end of a system and the start of a new one. So as this sort of current system runs down, the control system breaks apart, right? There's you got geopolitical tensions, you got tensions inside countries, between countries, between segments of society, right? It becomes very difficult to control information in that kind of setting. You can only try to control it with disinformation and misinformation, because the truth is right in front of us. Third reason is the secrets are becoming too big to hide, right? As you sort of develop and research all these secrets, at some point there's too many players involved, too many people, too many variables, too many moving parts. It becomes sort of impossible to sort of contain a secret at some level. The fourth reason is, of course, at some point you reach the limit of siloed re-engineering. Like everybody's working in a compartmentalized way. So at some point you sort of reach the limit of what you can achieve and reap the benefits of when it becomes too sort of compartmentalized and siloed. So you want to bring it out into the open, which brings us to number 5. At some point, you want to use and implement this knowledge and science and technology on a societal level. You want to level up, right? Because otherwise, why do you, research it in the first place? And then number 6 is, of course, the control system, the new control system, which is way more advanced, and it's a way higher level of control and surveillance, is almost finished. Think of CBDCs, but Epstein has done a lot of sort of shows around the level of surveillance that is now available, that you sort of micromanage people and make them do things that they might not want to do, right? You can sort of, if you release this information, you can control everybody, put them in a straitjacket, and they can't rebel or revolt and run away with this information or with this technology and do good things with it. And then number 7 is, of course, the change in the zeitgeist. You mentioned it last time, right? Where people are opening up. We have probably also been primed, our generation, from a young age, with cartoons and all kinds of television and movies. So we have probably been set up for this moment. But even if we haven't, the fact that the current system is falling apart, and that people are disoriented, and that they're reorienting themselves and trying to, they are basically looking at everything anew, right? So you can actually look at the evidence in a new light, because the control system that kept it under wraps is falling apart. So that allows people to open their eyes. And then number 8 is, of course, efficiency. Right, if you put it out in the open and you turn it into a Manhattan Project, you can achieve way more. You can also cut down spending, because a lot of these programs are spending double money on basically researching the same thing. And most importantly is, of course, number 9. You can centralize control and oversight of these programs, and pretend to be a hero by revealing them to the public, which gives you a huge legitimacy boon, right? And we also know, like, that Hitler and the Nazis were super interested in everything that had to do with the occult, which has a whole history behind it. We know the British have been super duper involved with all of this stuff, and probably keeping it under wraps, like in Egypt. So there's a lot of sort of history behind this.
Yeah, also there is one more thing we are ready, because I think we are tired of the bullshit. We have seen enough bullshit in this world that nothing will surprise us, nothing will scare us. If alien comes and even attack us, forget about landing. It won't surprise us, because we have seen enough bullshit.
Maybe we should wrap up there. I got one more clip, but maybe I can play it. Shall I play it?
Yeah.
It's actually from Marijn Poel's second documentary, which is called The Primordial Codes, Only Then the Burning Essence. And he sort of goes through the implications and applications of this sort of new science and new technology and new ways of doing things. And he talks with different experts. For example, in the beginning of the documentary, it talks to somebody who sort of specializes in the resonance of water, how different resonances can sort of change the structure of water, and that structured water is more wholesome and healing than unstructured water. And that has to do with these resonance fields. But he also talks to this person in Italy who got access to some Russian technology from, I think, the early Soviet period, or even perhaps probably the Soviet period. But anyway, it's more about what he's talking about. So you do need to be able to watch the video. So I'm not sure if people can watch it, because you need to read the subtitles.
Si dice, se una persona in una posizione, adesso dico la posizione del letto perché è quella predominante. Se una persona sta in una posizione fissa per 8 ore tutti i giorni o tutte le notti, è chiaro che assorbe le frequenze telluriche e cosmiche di quel punto. E questo entriamo in un discorso di geobiologia. Le cellule assorbono delle frequenze telluriche e cosmiche che non sono le frequenze della cellula umana, ma sono alteranti, cioè alterano la frequenza delle cellule. A forza di rimanere 8 ore, o poco più o poco meno, in quella posizione per tutta la vita, cioè diciamo 1/3 della vita noi lo passiamo a letto, le cellule assorbono quella frequenza e la prendono come buona, ma le altera l'equilibrio della salute. La cellula viene depolarizzata, viene resa malata. Allora cosa ha pensato Lakosky? Se uno vuole rimetterla in funzione, gli diamo la sua frequenza continua, in maniera che riacquisti la frequenza di come è nata, no? Nel senso che ci vogliono un po' di giorni, però dopo 15 giorni la cellula incomincia a muoversi. Cosa dice la medicina? La medicina va a cercare il bacillo, va a cercare il batterio, eccetera, ma non va a cercare la causa. Se cercasse la causa andrebbe sulla geobiologia, andrebbe a dire alla persona: io adesso ti curo, però non ritornare più nel posto dove eri prima, perché avrai delle recidive. Uno ritorna ad avere lo stesso male dopo anche qualche anno.
So I think this is very interesting, and it goes pretty deep in this documentary. And for the people who can't read because of the video quality, and restream, basically he's saying that because of our body consists for a large, for the most part, out of water, and so water plays a very important role in conveying or conducting information sort of between the organs, and as at least that's sort of the theory in this documentary that he's putting forward. And that if you're living in a place where the resonance is wrong or the frequency is wrong, then sort of your water, sort of your body becomes deregulated or unregulated, or your organs start to malfunction because of the information is not sort of conveyed, or I'm trying to find the right English words, but to sort of anyway, and sort of the point is, if you are living in a place that is unhealthy because of the wrong resonance or frequency, you can get ill. And if you go to a place with the right frequency or resonance, you can actually get healed. And of course, in the past, people were nomads, like they were not really settled. And these days, of course, people are very much attached to their stuff, and they're weighed down in a particular place, and they don't want to move, or moving is a whole ordeal, and not many people want to move. It's costly. You need other institutions to protect your stuff and to keep you safe. So you're basically building your own prison system, right? And if you then bombard these cell blocks that people call houses with the wrong frequencies and resonance, then you can actually also make people ill, right? That's sort of the idea behind this. And perhaps places like these pyramids and these other sort of sacred geometry and psychoacoustics that can actually heal people, which is actually also being reported, and which is Princeton research paper is also sort of pointing towards, and there's many other papers that are sort of starting to bubble up, which might also sort of point to the fact that resonance and frequency is a very important part of life. And of course, music, if you turn on music, it changes your mood. Like music really does something with you and with your health and how you feel and stuff.
Yep.
So anyway, this is just speculation, of course, but it's very interesting to think about.
I think it's more than a speculation, but let's go. Let's go with this narrative for now.
Yeah, let's wait till more stuff comes out. And I think we started with prophecies, but when we started with the pyramid, right? If the results of this finding turn out to be right, we don't know yet, but if it's been corroborated by other researchers, other research, and the results are double checked and triple checked and peer reviewed, then that discovery will completely shatter and obliterate our current historical and archaeological model, right? I mean, that will be blown to smithereens.
Yeah, but the thing is, when we get the result of that peer review research, we will be in the middle of World War III, so nobody will give a fuck about this research. So, because the way I see the world is going in the direction of a big war. I won't say World War III, but it's a big war, big Middle Eastern war, which will change everything.
Yeah, and we talked about that in, I think, episode 3 of Project Bluebeam, or no, episode 2 it was that you...
Yeah.
So for the people who want to know what Sid is talking about, I'll put it down in the description box tomorrow, which was episode 2 of Project Bluebeam. And I had a really good time talking about all this stuff. I hope it's true. It would be awesome. Watch all the documentaries. I'll link them down below, from Ross Coulthart going through Egypt. He sees many other places and spots many other things, and he goes to places where other people don't always get access to.
Mm-hmm.
And he also talks about Egyptian faces, and it's much bigger than just what you saw. Watch the one with the Primordial Code. Both movies are worth it. Also, Racer Jorjani, he might be a little bit crazy, but he's not stupid.
No, I think I agree with a lot of his stuff. A lot of his stuff is not crazy. It's actually very informative. So you must look at it. Some of it is really crazy, but other than that, some of his stuff is I really like.
Yeah, and watch the documentary of Barabar, which is I think very well done. Actually, I do know somebody I know one person who criticized it because that's a different story. But just do your own research and draw your own conclusions. And
oh, by the way, have you ever been to any places like that, which are ancient ruins, but they're really amazing? The feeling you get over there is just undescribable. There is the difference in watching a video, but if you go to ancient ruins, I have been to few, even few graveyards, you will feel something big, something different. It's not just like by looking at it, it's just you feel something and then you're confused what's happening. Even the air in that area is really different.
Yeah, I've been to Angkor Wat. I've been to many different places, but Angkor Wat was like really sort of that really did something profound. Like those temples, because it's like a whole system of spent multiple weeks in Angkor Wat, and and then you probably can still not see everything, but it's really, really complex and very mind-blowing. How they built that stuff and how sprawling all these architectural grandstanding is. It's like quite incomprehensible, to be honest.
Anyway, that's a good place to end.
Yeah,
have fun, guys. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.